I'd like to take a moment and talk about target, or specifically who we're speaking to in our designs. Now, this isn't, specific for Canva necessarily, but it can certainly help in the designs. All too often when we're trying to put together a design, we get bogged down immediately with photos and colors and text and font. Like how am I going to put together this design? And we don't slow down and think about who's at the other end. Who am I talking to? See, design is very much a conversation. We have information and we want to relay it to somebody. How do I speak to that person, that demographic, my niche? What type of imagery do they like? What type of fonts do they like? What type of colors would they like? What's the best way to engage them? It really, very much becomes not about what I like as my own style. It becomes very much to speak with my target. What's the best way to design? How should I design that? And even within Canva, you can see it's a lot of fun where within their own templates, they have such a wide range. You can easily see how you'd be able to target different niches or different demographics based on it. So if you're working with clients and the one has kind of younger, fun, upscale shoppers, you could clearly see a design like this where it's the fun contrast between the dark and the frilly type of pink in the background. The photo is like young and boisterous, and that's great, as opposed to if it's a older, like more mature audience where it's this serif font, it's this subdued purple tones with a black and white photo. Now, of course, all these examples are selling different things, but it's all just for sales. So whatever you're going to sell, you can see how how it could target different sets of folks and how important that can be when you're starting your design to really hone in on that, really think about who am I speaking to and what would they like. A great thing to do here is if you go to some other brands and see how they're having conversations with their clients, that can be a really good cue for the current type of trends that demographic's thinking about. So if you have a similar ad like this and you want to look at something like Licenza or something, if you have a ad that's going for slightly more older, if you look at some retirement homes, or if you look at some of the big insurance companies or life insurance companies, they'll have sort of a language that you can lean on to figure out how to speak, how to target the people you're trying to speak to. So we can see in this example here, we have a photo on the right. It's kind of like a Polaroid. It's a little bit blurry. We have the text here, bold, black. It's colliding over top of it. So, kind of an unexpected type of layout. So definitely leading more modern and younger. Same here too, with same type of idea as far as colliding, but some injection of a bright yellow, a photo that's very much kind of irreverent and fun. But then you take those same type of thing, 14 days, we're having a sale, and now it's a black and white photo. It's gold trim around everything. It's a serif font. How differently that speaks to somebody and who that would target, who would respond to this ad as opposed to this ad, or even more contrasting would be something like this. What demographic would respond to this type of ad as opposed to this type of ad? So it's really important to think before you get started with your design. Don't get too far down or too worried about putting everything onto a page and fitting everything in. Take a moment to think about the target of who you're speaking with. Who are you having the conversation with? And how can we adjust the elements of our design? Color, photos, fonts. What would they like and how can we do it? And again, make sure you look at brands that are out there already doing it, that are speaking to your market, and lean on them a bit because they've done the research. They know what the audience likes. And so if we wanted to, let's say we wanted to, just as a final kind of example, we like this type of layout, however, it's not speaking to our market. We want to trend a little bit older, so a bit of an older demographic, let's say 50 plus. What could we do to better target it? So immediately we know that this is a great looking font. So it's a serif font. It's a bit more refined. Let's go with, we'll use that copy, end of season sale, but I'm going to take the text from the previous one, or the font I should say, end of season sale. Actually, you know what? So I'm going to copy this because I want to duplicate it so we can review it. So undo, undo, undo. Perfect. I'm going to duplicate it, and now we are. Now if I delete this and paste, it actually kind of brings it back. So it's kind of traveling through time. It's a tip I'll be teaching a little bit later on in the advanced section, how you can travel through time with a do undo. So instead we choose a sans serif font to speak to a slightly older demographic. Black, kind of dark. It doesn't really, it's a little bit too harsh. So if we go instead to more of the, we'll lean on the soft purples. A little bit more dude, and then photos, we're going to want a slightly older couple, or an older person perhaps. Let's say, let's try fashion. Those photos will tend to lean a little bit older, or younger I should say, but see what we can find. Trying to avoid some words like, unfortunately when you're looking for photos, sometimes you have to get into cliche words you would prefer not to use. Things like senior, or yeah, because it's skewing a little too old for us. So let's say if we say mother instead. That's not so bad. Now the only problem here is the sizing of it, which may not work for us. Yeah, the photo's about right, but the sizing's not going to do it for us. So if we instead try this one, again, I think the spacing will be a little difficult for us on that one. Let's try one more time. We need somebody just off to the side. There we go. I love that the little girl's looking forward as well. You know what, just to even draw that in further, we can make that slightly opaque, show a little bit about that intimate moment, and that looks great. So what are the three things we changed here? And think how vastly different of a market this speaks to. So we changed a photo in the background, so we changed the photo, we changed the color, and we changed the font. Just three things, very quickly. But look at the change between who we're speaking with, right? So, you know, young, like young, buoyant, fun shoppers, a little bit irreverent. You got these sharp modern texts, black, like high contrast. We changed three simple things. All of a sudden, it's intimate, it's soft, it's touching, like vastly, vastly different. It's an entirely different target with some very few changes, and it goes to show how important it is to be cognizant of this when you start your design. So again, before you barrel down and just start trying to choose photos and fonts and everything else, take a minute to think about who is the target and who am I talking to, and then use that information to do a bit of research, look at other companies externally to see how they speak with it, what's their color palette, their photo styles, and bring some of that in so that you're having the best possible conversation with your target. All right, see you in the next lesson.